Hey kids, it's Arp. This is the ArpCast, somewhat live from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains in eastern Tennessee. Today we talk about different things, weird people, and maybe unicorns and rainbows. We read poetry and short stories too. Most of all, we keep it real. This is the ArpCast, starting now. ArpCast number 55, Wednesday, February 21, 2018. 2 months of winter. Gone. It's gone. Listen to this music. It's pumping me full of energy. Spring is in the air. For a while, anyway. We are on the air. YouTube, Instagram, Blogger, Facebook. We're like a contagion. We're just everywhere. Like the flu. That's right. We're like the flu. Look, subscribe. If you like what you're hearing and you kind of like my voice, please subscribe. That's all I'm going to say. Dream. Be the ball, Danny. Be the ArpCast. So, tonight's episode of the ArpCast, how about them apples, Newton? How about them apples, Newton? Wasn't sure how to spell dem. How about dem apples? So, going back, I ran this idea past the focus group this afternoon, and they looked at me in bewildered awe, and I wasn't surprised. These things just kind of creep up on me, but it's kind of science week, you know. We're Lavoisier on Monday. And that Russian guy, I forgot his name, no one remembers him, but everyone remembers Lavoisier. I know you do. And so I thought, well, let's carry the theme forward. And so, you know, we're on this kick of science and philosophy and kind of drawing different conclusions about how different subjects relate to other subjects. And so, and I'll give you an example. So I was a pretty good math student in high school. Shout out to Dr. Judy O'Neill. Favorite teacher ever. Calculus teacher. And, I did all right. Didn't do so well on the test. I don't do well on standardized tests. Not that you care. But did all right in the class. And so I don't really remember that much from it. You know, there was something about halfway to the wall is always halfway to the wall. Something about limit theorem. And then there was this concept of inflection point, right? So you get this change in direction, one might argue speed. So this velocity changes, but you get this very distinct change where you can tell you've had an inflection. And I always thought that was an interesting concept then, and I can see it today in my work, in my writing, in this program, this concept of inflection point. So let's turn our attention now. Well, what about Newtonian physics? And I know that's what you were thinking about all day. You're like, when the hell is this guy going to talk about Newtonian physics? Well, tonight's the night. So Sir Isaac, you know, the apple fell on his head and gravity and, you know, that whole thing. And more than that, really, you know, he thought about the celestial bodies and their relationship to one another, but that's a different show. So he had 3 laws of motion. First law, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase these, I brought them down to kind of real terms. Persistent state or direction until altered. So that's kind of it. And these are my interpretations. You know, I'd love to hear from some of you science geeks. You know, I'd love to hear from anybody. You've been very fearful about putting comments. Comment, guys, come on. I'm aching to talk. Right, Bob? I mean, we're aching to talk to somebody else here. So that's the first law, persistent state or direction until altered. Second law, I'll call it the force-mass conundrum. That's my interpretation of it, right? So just hang in there with me, the force-mass conundrum. And then the third law, equal and opposite reaction. So every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. You move your hands, there's something going on in your shoulder and your joints and all that. That's an opposite reaction to your moving your hands, which I talk with my hands. So if you could see me right now, I'd be very loud. I'd be slapping you in the face. It's amazing that I don't slap myself in the face. So how do these apply to life situations, right? That's kind of been the push. And I just want to say this. Back off, man. I'm not a scientist. And if any of you get that reference, God bless you. God bless you. So, first law. Don't bother people. Right? So, again, the persistent state or direction until altered. It basically says a body will remain in a fixed state or on the same path unless it's altered. So, leave well enough alone. Is what I'm trying to say. Allow the constant motion. Now, you're going to come up and say, look, what if they're doing something wrong or illegal, right? I think there's a moment in time where you have an obligation to affect the motion of another person or another group. But if you don't have to, don't feel compelled to just be a nag, to be in someone's business. And this kind of goes back to the Don't Drive Angry episode some weeks ago, which I know at least one of you has said, I'm going to listen, I'm going to bring my significant other in, I'm going to listen. Well, this is a reminder, go and listen. Second law, the same force applied on a lighter object as compared to a heavier object will create more acceleration. I don't really know what all that means, but no, I do. So here's what it is. If something is heavier, it's going to take more force. So if something is 2 times heavier than the other object, it's going to take twice the amount of force to move that mass forward, right? So the lift in life, the big lift in life, whatever that is, don't be encumbered with other stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't get caught up in all this because you've got to push this mass in front of you with all your energy, and it's already heavy enough. You having to lift yourself up and all the baggage you're bringing forward, let's not do that. In ARP, let's not do that. All that stuff's gone. Take it off. Get it off your shoulder. Take the weight off your mind. Third law. The philosophical collision, the argument, the brandishing of words, the one-upmanship is not always equal and opposite. This is an interesting one for me, right? So we're always thinking about every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And I get it. Maybe, if we look at what someone says and we have a physical reaction to it, and, let's say something horrific happens as a reaction to something else. Why do we always have to make it so enormous a reaction? Right? And really what it's about is that there's a buildup. There's that response that happens. So you have the receipt of whatever the stimulus is. You have the response that happens within you. And then you have the reaction. And it just seems like what we do is we immediately go to nuclear. And not nuclear. We go to nuclear. Think about the response that's going on inside of you. Breathe a moment. It can just be equal and opposite. It doesn't have to be unequal and ginormous. So that's it. Newtonian Physics, according to the ArpCast. I'm going to see you on the Big Friday program. I love you guys. Have a good night. Well, kids, you know who this is. It's ARP, damn it. You have been listening to the ArpCast, a sensational, fact-filled experience meant to change the world. I'm happy you stopped by. Our sponsors, those greedy, wily bastards, thank you too. Make sure to write. This has been the ArpCast. I'm out.